Osiris Torrence is the number 21 player on my big board and my 4th ranked offensive lineman in this draft class. He is a 3-star prospect coming out of high school who played 3 seasons at Louisiana Lafayette before transferring to Florida, where he became a first-team All-American at right guard. He is 6'5", which is 85th percentile, 330 pounds, which is 87th percentile. He has 96th percentile wingspan and 98th percentile hand size. Overall, he had a 6.06 relative athletic score. He only allowed 12 pressures in his first 2 seasons in college. Now, granted, it wasn't at a high level, but making the leap to the SEC wasn't an issue, as he allowed 0 sacks or hits and posted an 89.9 PFF run blocking grade in 2022. Torrence is a stonewall in pass protection. He does a great job of getting into defenders' chests and keeping them at bay. Now, when he's driven off of his spot, he does a great job of sinking his hips, getting that little hop in, and re-anchoring against power rushers. He also has a very high IQ. He's very aware of stunts and blitzes. His head is always on a swivel, looking for guys crossing his face. And he's quick off the ball in the run game, and he has the ability to reach block, jumping across a defensive end's face and sealing him out on outside runs. As for his weaknesses, Torrence struggles to block at the second level. He's not a super fluid mover, which you see in his 35th percentile 10-yard split time. He struggles to get out in those instances. And at times he's overly aggressive at the expense of technique. He is a guy that wants to drive you into the ground, and sometimes it causes technical failures. Osiris Torrence only played 1 year of high-level ball at Florida, but I think he automatically projects to be a plug-and-play starter at the next level. He had no issue jumping to the SEC. I see no issues with him jumping to the next level. If you need a starting right guard, there's nobody better in this class than Osiris Torrence. He's an immediate plug-and-play, high-level starter in the NFL. Jordan Addison is the number 22 player on my big board and my 2nd-ranked wide receiver in this draft class. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school where he played wide receiver, quarterback, and defensive back. He committed to Pitt and he played there for 2 seasons, winning the Biletnikoff Award in 2021 with Kenny Pickett before transferring to USC in 2022. He is just barely 21 years old, 5'11", which is 26th percentile, 173 pounds, which is 3rd percentile, and he ran a 4.49 40, which is 56th percentile. Overall, he has a 5.88 relative athletic score. In 2022, catching passes from Caleb Williams, he had 59 receptions for 875 yards, just under 15 yards per reception, and 8 touchdowns. Addison has very good route running skills. He has really good footwork in and out of his breaks. He shoulder fakes well, and then is able to sink his hips and snap off routes to create separation. Once he catches the ball, he has really good rack ability. He's able to make guys miss. He's able to get explosive plays out of underneath passes. He also uses his hands really well to avoid getting stuck at the line of scrimmage in press coverage interactions. However, if the corner is able to stick him, he does struggle to get off of press coverage. Now, drops were an issue for Addison at Pitt. He had 21 over 2 years. But this year at USC, he only had 2 drops on 59 receptions, so there was growth in that aspect of his game. He struggles to block on the edge on run plays and on screen passes, which is largely due to his size, his athletic profile. And unfortunately, he's very small and he doesn't make up for it with elite athleticism. Usually for these really small guys, such low percentile weights, 3rd percentile, you would expect to have a really quick 40 time, as you see with other wide receivers in this class. And Addison doesn't have that. That's not to say he's a bad athlete. He's just an average athlete in a small body. I think he projects to the next level as a versatile piece. I don't think he's restricted to playing in the slot. I think you can put him outside, although the slot is probably going to be his best place. Lucas Van Ness is the number 23 player on my big board and my 5th-ranked edge rusher in this class. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school who redshirted in 2020, played mostly on the interior defensive line in 2021 before moving to edge in 2022. He is 6'5", 272 pounds, and ran a 4.58 40 with a 4.32 shuttle and overall had a 9.39 relative athletic score that was brought down by his 8th percentile bench press. In 2022, he had 37 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, and 46 pressures. He also had 2 punt blocks on special teams. Van Ness has a quick first step that he uses to start a bull rush. He lands a heavy first punch, and then he likes to forklift offensive linemen backwards into the pocket. He has very powerful hands, and he's able to use that hand strength and that first punch into a really nice push-pull move on offensive tackles. He's also a good run defender who's rarely displaced at the point of attack. Now, he is overly aggressive at times, and it comes at the expense of gap integrity. And so, although he's not often displaced, he will sometimes willingly run himself out of running plays. He is a raw player who never started a game for Iowa, and he lacks high-end sack production. And he has very limited pass rush moves. You can tell this is a guy that was moved around and was never given time to sit in one spot and learn how to play the game. His bull rush and his push-pull is pretty much all he has in his pass rush repertoire. I see him at the next level. He's a versatile player. I think his best fit would be as a 5 technique, who can maybe take some reps inside, but I think early in his career you want to limit that. Just leave him at a 5 technique, leave him heads up on a tackle, and let him learn how to do one thing well before you try to add more things onto his plate. Keely Ringo is the number 24 player on my big board and my 7th ranked defensive back in this draft class. He was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, the number 1 cornerback and number 4 overall player in his class. He comes from a track background as well, which you can see with his amazing explosiveness on the field. He was a 2-year starter at Georgia with 76 tackles, 1 pass defense, and 3 interceptions, including a pick-6 of Bryce Young in the 2021 national title game. He is 6'2", 207 pounds, both 90th percentile or better, under 21 years old, and ran a 4.36 40 at the combine, which is 92nd percentile. He ended with an 8.24 relative athletic score. In 2022, he had 34 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 8 pass breakups. Ringo has elite straight line speed. He can run with any receiver on the field, and he does a good job at pressing at the line and then carrying routes vertically and at defending in-breaking routes from a trail technique where he can shrink throwing windows. He's also good at high-pointing the ball at the catch point, and he's very good in zone coverage. I think he hits his landmarks really well, and he relates to high-low concepts well while keeping his eyes on the quarterback and reading his intentions. Now, as for his weaknesses, his agility is a weakness. He struggles to change direction without losing too much of his top-end speed, and he can also struggle to get his head around when he's playing with his back to the ball in those trail techniques. He only got a hand on 10% of passes that targeted him, and so he struggles to find the ball while it's in the air. He's also susceptible to double moves or big plays. He allowed 13 catches of 15-plus yards this year, which was second most in the SEC. I think his best projection to the next level is as an outside cornerback in a cover 3 zone scheme that will allow him to play with eyes on the quarterback with the receivers in front of him. I also think Ringo could potentially move to safety, where his lateral agility wouldn't be tested as much, nor would his playing with the back to the quarterback. He would be able to key in on quarterbacks better and make plays downhill when the pass is thrown. Dewand Jones is the number 25 player on my big board and my 5th ranked offensive lineman in this draft class. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school who earned Division I scholarship offers for both football and basketball. He chose Ohio State and became a 2-year starter there at right tackle. He is 6'8", 375 pounds, 97th and 98th percentile respectively, with 97th percentile arm length, and he's only 21 and a half years old. He allowed 0 sacks and 0 hits on 395 pass blocking snaps in 2022, and his 1.3% pressure rate led all college football tackles. Jones is a mauler in the run game. He is massive and he is powerful, and he has tremendous grip strength, and he does such a good job of displacing defensive ends all the way off of the front side of the play. He rarely loses a rep once his hands are on a defender, and he's got such long arms, it's so easy for him to get hands on defenders. He had a 7-foot 6-inch wingspan that broke the Senior Bowl record for the longest wingspan. As for his weaknesses, he's not the most agile player. He still does a good job of being patient in pass protection, and he's very technically sound, but he's not the most agile moving out in space, and he's a little bit top heavy. It's nitpicking, but I think he should probably cut a little bit of weight just to get a little more athletic and nimble at the next level. Maybe sacrifice a little bit of his power and his mauling tendencies to just become a little better mover in space and be able to deal with speed rushers a little better. It's not that he struggled against speed rushers in the college football season, but I could see that being an issue for him at the next level, playing at his current weight. I think he projects to the NFL as a starting tackle. Probably on the right side, that's where he played in college, but switching to the left isn't out of the realm of possibility. He's going to be a tremendous run blocker who will probably improve as a pass blocker over the course of his rookie contract. Darnell Washington is the number 26 player on my big board and my top-ranked tight end in this class. He was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school with a basketball background, and the second-ranked athlete in his class, the 23rd ranked player overall. He is a physical freak at 6'7", 264 pounds, which is 93rd and 85th percentile respectively. He ran a 4.64 40, which is 79th percentile, and a 4.08 shuttle, which is 97th percentile, and it was third best at the combine among all players of all positions this year. Overall, he had a 9.88 relative athletic score. In 2022, he had 28 receptions for 454 yards and 2 touchdowns. Darnell Washington is a first off the bus player. He is just massive. 98th percentile wingspan, 98th percentile hand size. He is huge, and he is a tremendous blocker. He routinely displaces defensive ends and linebackers in run blocking. He moves across formations easily in split flow, and he's really good in pass protection as well. I legitimately think that Darnell Washington could transition to offensive tackle if he wanted to. He is also very hard to bring down in space. He has a nice stiff arm, or he'll just run you over. Now, he only has 45 career receptions, but he forced 14 missed tackles and averaged 7.5 yards after the catch per reception. And he is excellent as a target off of play action. Now, as for his weaknesses, he doesn't have a lot of college production. He wasn't used as a receiver a lot, and when he was, he doesn't generate a lot of separation against man coverage. He's more of a mismatch generator than he is a route runner, but he generates mismatches so well with his height and his speed combination. I think he projects best to the next level as a Y tight end, a guy that you're going to use in line, use him as a force in the run game, and then get him targets off of play action, where he could be a big threat with the ball in his hands. Michael Mayer is the number 27 player on my big board and my second-ranked tight end in this class. He was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school who became a contributor for Notre Dame right out of the gate. In 3 seasons, he has 2,099 yards and 18 touchdowns, and he earned All-American honors in 2022. He leaves Notre Dame with the most receptions by a tight end in program history and 3rd overall at 180. He is 6'5", 249 pounds, ran a 4.7 40 that is 66th percentile, and overall had a 7.62 relative athletic score. In 2022, he had 67 receptions for 809 yards at 12.1 yards per reception with 9 touchdowns. He also led all tight ends in contested catches with 17. Mayer has great hands. He is a natural catcher of the football who excels at using his body to create space at the catch point and then reeling in tough catches. He's so good at using his body to create leverage to shield off defenders to give him a window to make those catches. With the ball in his hands, he is a hard runner who is tough to bring down, and he's also a good blocker. Mayer has a very easy on-ramp to becoming an NFL tight end. As for his weaknesses, he does struggle to create separation on his routes at times, instead relying on outmaneuvering or outmuscling his opponents at the catch point, and that led to a lot of those contested catches. He can also struggle when moving to the second level as a blocker. And so Mayer has a very high floor. He's one of the safest players in this draft. It's a question of what his ceiling is. I think his floor is probably like a top 10 tight end in the league, but how high are you willing to take the 10th best tight end in the draft? I think he's versatile. You can line him up in the slot. You can line him up offset. You can line him up out wide. You can put him about anywhere that you want, and you can know that he's going to be a reliable option. But at a non-premium position, the question is, how high is someone going to be willing to take Michael Mayer? Dalton Kincaid is the number 28 player on my big board and my third-ranked tight end in this draft class. He was a 0-star prospect coming out of high school with only 1 year experience playing football. He was actually a high school basketball standout before transitioning to football, but he had a breakout season in 2022 at Utah, where he ended second among tight ends in both yards and touchdowns with 890 yards and 8 touchdowns. He is 6'4", 246 pounds, and he's just under 24 years old. Kincaid is a snappy route runner who is fluid in his breaks. He ran a very full route tree for Utah. He ran all of the routes effectively, especially for a guy with so few years of football under his belt. He has great hands. He only dropped 2 passes on 93 targets last year. And I'm not just talking about wide open targets, but he plays through contact at the catch point very well, too. He's also a yards after catch machine. He's very hard to bring down. He had 16 missed tackles forced, which was 3rd in the country at tight end. Now, as for his weaknesses, he is a poor blocker. He lacks power, and he's unable to sustain blocks if he lands them to begin with, which is 50-50 at best because he struggles with his block targeting as well. Some of that comes from his size profile. He's undersized as a tight end. He's only 25th percentile height, 20th percentile weight, and 32nd percentile arm length. If you're going to draft a tight end to line up in line and block for you, this is not the guy that you want. But if you're going to line him up as an F tight end, a guy that you flex out into the slot a lot, someone that you release off of the line of scrimmage, if you want to use him as a big slot receiver, Dalton Kincaid is your guy. He's such a good route runner. He's so good with the ball in his hands after the catch. There's shades of Travis Kelce in his game, which is a lofty comparison. But I love Dalton Kincaid as a pure receiving option. He's one of the best in this class. Quentin Johnston is the number 29 player on my big board and my third-ranked wide receiver in this draft class. He was a 4-star prospect coming out of high school with a background in track and basketball. He became a 3-year contributor for TCU with his best year coming in 2022 when he recorded 60 receptions for 1,069 yards at 17.8 yards per reception with 6 touchdowns, and he helped lead TCU to the national title game. He is 21 and a half years old, 6'3", 208 pounds with an 82-inch wingspan, which is 96th percentile, and a 40.5-inch vertical jump that is 93rd percentile. Overall, he had an 8.8 relative athletic score. Johnston has elite speed and long strides that eat up defensive backs' cushion when they are in off coverage very quickly. He also has really good lateral agility. He can snap off his routes to create separation. He sinks his hips and gets in and out of his breaks really quickly. And he understands how to use leverage against man coverage and how to find soft spots in zones. He's also explosive after the catch with 8.9 yards after the catch per reception in 2022, which ranked 11th among all wide receivers. However, he struggles to release from press coverage at times, and he's inconsistent at the catch point. He allows the ball into his chest on routine catches. And because of that, he doesn't win in contested catch situations. You would think someone that's so tall, with such a good wingspan, and such a good vertical would be good in contested catches, but he's only 8 for 23 in those situations last year. This is a guy whose traits don't match his skills. He is a huge wide receiver who tries to play like a finesse guy. He looks like Tarzan, but he plays like Jane at times. I think his best projection to the next level is it's going to be as an outside receiver. I don't know if he's ready to be an X receiver. He's going to have to develop in getting off of press coverage, and so he may slot in as a Z receiver. Maybe you can teach him that technique and get him to your X receiver. Regardless, this is someone that you want out on the boundary, getting the ball to in space so he can make plays after the catch. Anton Harrison is the number 30 player on my big board and my 6th ranked offensive lineman in this draft class. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school who played left tackle as a freshman in 2020 before becoming a full-time starter for 2021 and 2022. He is 6'4", which is 14th percentile height, 315 pounds, ran a 93rd percentile 40-yard dash, and overall had a 7.64 relative athletic score. He's also very young. He'll barely be 21 years old on draft night. He has an 86.6 pass blocking grade over the last 2 years that is 10th among Power 5 offensive tackles. He only allowed 1 knockdown on 425 pass blocking snaps in 2022. Harrison is long and he's very athletic. He's got really light feet that allows him to get out into his kicks really quickly. And he handles speed rushers off the edge really well because of the smoothness of his kicks. He's also got a lot of range in the running game. Oklahoma loved to get him pulling out on the perimeter, lead blocking on running plays. He's improved every year at Oklahoma, and he has 1,866 career offensive snaps. As for his weaknesses, his biggest weakness is his functional strength. He's not often overpowered, but he does need to add strength to his profile. And there was improvement there from 2021 to 2022, and it's something that he has acknowledged that he's working on. But he's going to continue to need to add bulk and, more importantly, strength to thrive in the NFL. He also has erratic hand placement at times. His lower body is so smooth, but his upper body is sometimes out of sync, and he will throw hands, he'll throw his punches, and they'll land off the frame of the pass rusher, and it allows them to get into his chest, and it magnifies his strength issues. I think Harrison projects to the next level as an offensive tackle, and all the better if you can take him and let him sit for a year and develop his strength, but I do think he's someone that could step in and start right away and play at a decent level as a rookie. And there you have it, the number 21 through 30 players on my big board. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving me a follow on YouTube at ShaneHalfNFL. You can also follow me on Twitter at halfandhalf_TPL. Be sure you join us live for the Edge of Philly Sports live draft show for both nights 1 and 2 of the NFL Draft.